Hello and welcome to the Book Bunch. My name is Sam. It is so great to have you guys here for another video. Today's video is not themed like I normally try and do, just because the last couple of weeks I've been just reading random bits and pieces here and there in between themed videos, and so I thought I would catch you up with those ones that haven't appeared in other videos yet. So we're going to get right into it. I have 4 here that are physical copies, and then I have a couple of ebooks to share with you guys as well. And I've got to say, I'm very excited to share this with you guys because there's quite a few 5-star reads in here, and I'm very happy about it. So the first one we're going to start with is Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus. This book I got the privilege of buddy reading with Katie over at Paperbacks and Ponytails. She just breezed through this, and so I found myself having to catch up, and she's like straight on to the next book and has already finished it. So that goes to show how good this book is. I really did enjoy it as well. This is a middle grade read, but I truly believe that it is an all ages read for sure. Also, if you can hear insects in the back, sorry about that. That's just because we live with a like rainforest garden thing. Yes, so what is this book about? This book is about this young girl. She is in middle school and her name is Avon, and she has been born with no arms, and then she was adopted when she was 2 years old to this wonderful set of parents, and all parents need to be like Avon's parents. They are so cool, so understanding. They do their very best to not let her disability get in the way of anything that she might want to do or need to do. And they are just, yeah, really awesome people who just make friends with everybody that they meet, and they don't care about differences or anything like that, which is super encouraging. And so Avon has had the privilege of growing up with them as her parents, and everything was going well. She didn't really stand out at school even growing up because they all grew up together. So that awkwardness kind of faded away years ago, and she didn't feel any pressures or any shame or anything like that about her situation, because she does everything with her feet, which is a really cool skill. It makes me really like wonder how all of that kind of stuff does work. It's really fascinating to me how they can find ways around stuff and you just make do with what you've got. I think that's so awesome. And yes, she then finds out though that her dad has accepted this job in a different state, and they kind of really need this because her dad's been out of work for a while. And so they pack up and move to Arizona, which is actually where Avon was born. But yes, it's like across the country from where they were living at the time. And she is a bit devastated about it because it obviously means leaving her friends, but she's also afraid because of the challenges it's going to present, because kids can be nasty, especially new kids when you move to a normal school. And sorry, not normal school, new school. And yeah, like especially around that age, especially there's cliques and people are just nasty in general. And she finds herself a bit embarrassed about her situation, and so she ends up resorting to like eating in the bathroom and stuff like that to avoid stares and names and snickering and stuff like that, which is really sad. I was bullied myself, so I sort of understand where she's coming from. It obviously wasn't for the same thing, but yeah, kids can be nasty. And she kind of does power through, and she ends up making a couple of friends with some other kids who have differences as well. One of the kids she makes friends with is a bit of a loner. He likes to eat by himself because he is a bit overweight and kids make fun of him for it. And then there is another boy that she makes friends with who has Tourette's and likes to hang out in the library. And so yeah, it was a really cool eye opener as of to what it is like from the perspective of someone who does have a disability, which I thought was really cool, especially like through young eyes was really awesome as well. Um, and her voice was so fun as well. Like she doesn't let it kind of get the best of her or anything like that. And she does like to make light of some of the situations that she's in and try to be positive about stuff. And she's just a lot of fun. I really loved reading through her voice. It was really, really well done. And yeah, we just follow her as she navigates this move and making new friends and her new life, which is a little bit crazy because she lives in like this Western themed theme park kind of thing. And yes, there's a mystery involved. It's very cool, and I definitely recommend this book. That was a 5-star read, by the way. Then there is Deeper Still, which is a book my husband and I did as our Bible study along with reading our Bible, and we both found this pretty decent. I'd probably give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I can't remember what I put on Goodreads. I feel like I put it in as 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, but if I'm really thinking about it, it's probably not quite that good. But still definitely worth your time. This book was about biblical meditation, and I found it really interesting because it kind of breaks down what the world wants you to believe meditation is, and then she kind of shifts focus and shows you what meditation really is and what biblical meditation is, and how meditating on God's word is a very biblical principle, and how we should be doing that and how it can help us. And yeah, there were some really good gems in there that I did really appreciate, especially even just the concept of it, which is just like really taking that pause and being slow and intentional about your Bible readings and about your times with God and the conversations you have about God and all of that kind of stuff, and your prayer times and stuff. I thought that was really cool because she does preface it with saying, like, in our like society we do kind of praise rushing and that efficiency, and how when it comes to Bible time we tend to look at it the same way and just trying to get it out of the way because we've got other stuff to do and all of that kind of thing, or it's just another thing to do, or there's just something else to do always, I guess. And instead of like just being like, hey, this is my God time, this is important, this is feeding my soul, I need to step back and just breathe and not just read this like it's everything else that I'm reading. I need to read this with intention and really soak it all in. And so I loved that concept of it. But yeah, that was Deeper Still. If you want to give that one a go. Plus I love the cover, I think it's super cute. Then there was another read. This one is sort of a Bible study book as well, but I just read it on its own. This is called Extraordinary Hospitality for Ordinary People. And I gotta say, it wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I am grateful for it. So this book is about how we so often look at hospitality as like you invite people over for a nice dinner and you like put out all the stops, and it can be very taxing to do that regularly, and like there's this very like ingrained thing in us, especially in women, that like it kind of stemmed from the whole Sunday roast thing where like after church you come home and you get the house all ready for all these people to come over because you're hosting them, and you've got to kind of put on a show and always have people coming in and out of your house and all of that kind of stuff, because like that's what's kind of expected, and also because like that's a good way to get people in so that you can talk to them about God, if that makes sense. And she kind of explained that like not everyone is capable of that, nor should we really need to feel that pressure, because that's not what biblical hospitality is about. Like Jesus was hospitable to people and hosted people and showed that hospitality to people, even though like he didn't have a table, he didn't have a house, like he met people where they were and like stuff like that. It was really interesting, really did like it. I would give this a 5 out of 5 stars. It does like also touch on the fact that like churches need to be more hospitable as well. Like there's a chapter right at the end that kind of breaks away from individual hospitality and talks about like church hospitality as a whole, and it brought to light the fact that like so many churches are not accessible for people that might have a disability or might be coming from a different walk of life, and like that's so bad. Like even just things like, if someone who's deaf walks into your church, are they going to have an option and know what's going on? Like, do you have things like subtitles on your announcements? Do you have some kind of relay for hearing aids if that's like something that people are going to walk in and have? Or is there like an interpreter? Or like is the sermon going to be on the screen in words so they can read it? Or like different things like that. And like basic things like, is it wheelchair accessible? Are you, by all putting on this show of being these like happy, well put together Christians all the time who really go above and beyond, is that going to deter people who aren't at that point? And is it okay to show that brokenness so that other people walk in and see the brokenness and feel welcome in that brokenness? And different things like that, which I found so interesting. But yeah, the main focus on the book was about like, how do we as everyday people, one, fit people into our schedule, and two, how do we be hospitable always and not just like going to the extreme and having a like super fancy dinner party or something, like bringing them coffee and sitting with them, or like, I don't know, doing like asking them, how can I serve you, and all of that kind of stuff. It was really interesting, really did enjoy it, and it was a quick read as well. Then there was The Extraordinary Death of Mrs. Kipp. This book made me weep, and I knew that this was going to be good because everyone under the sun has rated this 5 stars and said that it's phenomenal. And I just bought it after book lover Amanda, she had did a review on it a couple months ago, and I instantly added it to my list and finally got a copy. And then I put it off for a little bit because for some reason I thought this was like a fantasy book or something about like this person who's had multiple deaths and everything. That's what I thought for some reason. That's absolutely not what this is about. And if I had actually really listened to people's reviews, I would have known that. But it's actually a contemporary fiction about this old lady named Mrs. Kipp and this young journalist. I cannot remember her name now. It's Aidan. And we follow Mrs. Kipp as she is just been put in a hospice, and she is dying of cancer. And she has lived this whole life, and she has built this very strong and amazing faith, and she is just so compassionate and loving because of all of these things she has experienced and how she's seen God move over her lifetime. And like, even until the very end, she does not stop loving and does not stop sacrificing for people. It's really beautiful, and it will make you weep. But yes, and then there is Aidan, who is this journalist who's trying to make her way. She's been working in journalism for a year now, but she keeps trying to jump the gun and really wants to make headlines and stuff like that, but she's a rookie and that's not how it works. And so she ends up getting reprimanded for some of her decisions and almost loses her job because she tries to kind of cut out the middleman and like break the hierarchy and all of this kind of stuff. But she ends up getting assigned to write the obituary of Mrs. Kipp. Mrs. Kipp is still alive throughout this book, and so it's a bit unusual, but Mrs. Kipp has asked that someone write her obituary because she doesn't have any family or anything that will be able to do it when she passes away. So yes, this young journalist gets signed her obituary, and she doesn't know that there's more at work here, and that what has been set up is that it's not just going to be an obituary. Her editor wants her to actually find more about Mrs. Kipp and the extraordinary things Mrs. Kipp has done in her life and write an actual feature on it. But Aiden is a bit too ignorant and naive and a bit too, again, jumping the gun, eager to just get it out of the way and move on because she thinks it's just an obituary, and how could an old lady really impact anyone and all of that kind of stuff. But Mrs. Kipp does what Mrs. Kipp does, and she loves on Aiden, and she pushes Aiden, and she makes Aiden think, and she slowly manages to guide Aiden to this bigger story, which is that Mrs. Kipp had a big role to play in the refugees that were coming from, I want to say it was Vietnam. In the 70s. And this is some of it is based on a true story, but most of it is work of fiction. Mrs. Kipp is not real, and what she did is not real, but the refugee situation was real. But yeah, there's a little thing in the back by the author that kind of explains what is and isn't real. But yes, and it is just a beautiful story about, one, how God moves, two, about compassion, three, about just stopping and listening and being present, and four, not taking people for granted, and just because they don't look like something on the outside doesn't mean that they don't have an amazing story to share. And you should stop and listen and dig in and love and soak it all in. And there's so many other things after that, but this book is very life-changing, very beautiful. I absolutely loved every single minute of it and didn't want to put it down. It was so good, and like I said, I wept so many times at so many different points in this book, and it will have a lasting impact. It just will. I would love to be Mrs. Kipp. I would also love to have a friend like Mrs. Kipp, and I think that so much of the world would be better if everyone was like Mrs. Kipp or knew a Mrs. Kipp, because she is awesome. And I'm gonna cry again just think about it, but it is also a beautiful testament of what God can do in people, and how if we really listen to his voice and we really rely on him, he will make a way, and he will change us, and he will make us better. And if we lean on him, just the extraordinary things that will be done. And it just made me long for heaven as well, and made me long for a deeper connection with him, and just a constant connection with him. And it was amazing, and I loved it, and I highly recommend it. It was definitely a 5 out of 5 stars. And then the other couple of books I want to talk to you about, we will start with Vivid. So Vivid, I'll leave a little picture here, is this awesome book about a magic school, an elite magic school, where there are 3 colors. So there is yellow, red, and blue. Yellow has been banned, and all of the yellow users have pretty much been wiped out because it's considered too dangerous. Because people who can use yellow magic, they control the mind. So the other magic users are kind of on edge, because they're we don't know what the yellow users are actually forcing us to do, and what we just are doing, and what is manipulation and what isn't, and all of that kind of thing. And then there is red and blue magic, and red magic is about the body, and so you can have strength, and you can heal, and you can have agility, and all of that kind of stuff. And then blue magic is about objects and being able to control things outside of yourself. So like you can mend things and break things and throw things and create things out of stuff, magically, basically. And yes, so we follow this one girl, and she is a red magic user, and she is like one of the elite students, and she is being trained under the wing of this benefactor. They're like the people in charge, and she, like, everything's going well for her, and she's like, I'm going to be a benefactor one day, and everything looks like it's going to turn out that way. And then she is in the woods practicing her magic, and she runs into a yellow magic user that is on the loose, and her kind of whole life is changed because she keeps being drawn back to him, and she's like trying to figure out if she's being manipulated or not. She's also trying to figure out if like what he says is true, or if like he's just lying to her, because like the benefactors will say one thing and he's saying this other thing, and she's like at war with what is the right decision to make and who is telling the truth and all of that kind of stuff. And everything gets crazy. It just gets crazy. And there is definitely a enemies to lovers theme going on, which I didn't know that I liked the enemies to lovers thing all that much, because I'm not a huge, like, I don't really read romance, but I quite like it when it's in other things as like a side story. But I think I've only read maybe one or two other stories that actually have an enemies to lovers theme, and sometimes I like it and sometimes I don't. So I guess maybe it just depends on how well it's done. But this was done really well, and I really did like it. And I absolutely need to read the second one. I was lucky enough to get an advance copy of it from Enclave Publishing, who published the first book. So I am going to be reading that before it actually comes out, because the second book comes out in a few months, I think, something like that. I believe it's set for this year. And yes, it is so exciting, and I cannot wait for the second book. But first book, highly recommend. My only comment is I don't love the cover. I feel like they could have done something with like the red and the blue and the yellow more than like the purples and greens and stuff that they've got going on the cover. I do understand the references that the cover is making, but I just feel like it could have been done a little bit differently and maybe a little bit better. But that's okay. That is like neither here nor there. That's just me being a picky artist. But yes, highly recommend that read, especially if you like any magic school settings, if you like enemies to lovers, if you just like fantasy in general. Super good. Very cool concept. Loved the magic system as well. It was very, very cool, and I just breezed through it. It was such an easy read. And then the second book that was also a 5-star read was Oathbound. Oh my goodness, this book, guys. Pirates. That's kind of really all I need to ever say when it's a pirate book, but I love pirate books. Like, love, 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 love pirate books. Obsessed. Obsessed. Especially if they're done well and they're clean, and this was done well and it was done clean, and I'm so excited. It makes me even more excited for JJ Fisher's pirate book that's coming out. Is it this year? I think it's this year. Soulmark? I think it's this year. I can't remember now. But Oathbound is so good, and I'm so excited like to read book 2 when that comes out as well. I'm like absolutely so excited. I believe it came out like last month or something like that. Maybe it came out last month, but I haven't got a copy of that one yet, so I need to check to see if it's actually out, and if it's out, get it. But Oathbound was so good. It is about these friends who, like, they've been friends for years. One is the daughter of a deceased pirate, who she's like the daughter of this like infamous deceased pirate, and she is like I'm never going to go on the ocean. I'm never going to be a pirate. I just know. I've seen what it's done to my family. Don't want to do it. So she is like a waitress in this tavern thing. And she is like hoping to buy back her parents' sheep farm that they used to have, and because her father has passed away and her mother has passed away, and her mother was an infamous pirate. And she is friends with this pirate boy who he was originally a member of like the King's Navy, but then all this stuff happened and he left the King's Navy and he became a pirate because he decided it was more honorable basically than being in the Navy. And they have like remained friends, and they both have feelings for each other, but they like won't tell each other, and neither of them think that the other one likes each other, and so that's why no moves have ever been made. And also the fact that like he's a pirate and she's never going to be a pirate and all of that kind of stuff. It's complicated. And like he comes in and he's like, please come with me on this next trip. Like this is going to be the big break. This is going to get me enough treasure so that I can buy your sheep farm, and so I'll be set as a pirate and all of this stuff. And she'll like he always approaches her with things like this, and she always says no. But this time she says yes, because she has found out that she has the same disease that killed her father, and she's got like less than a year to live, and she doesn't have the heart to tell her friend yet. And it's like there's a lot of secrets kept in this book, a lot of secrets. And it is a good lesson in keeping secrets is bad and will bite you in the butt. But yes, so she's like, yes, I'll come. But she wouldn't really tell him why. And he's just like, oh my goodness, she said yes, like we're gonna go. I'm gonna turn her into a pirate. It's gonna be great. And even if she doesn't want to be a pirate, I'm gonna at least get her her sheep farm and make her happy. Even if I can never be with her and stuff. It's quite cute. And then they like go off on this pirating adventure, following this map to try and find this treasure that will hopefully redeem both of them. And she's going because where the treasure is also the only place that's known where this nut grows, and this nut is apparently the only thing that has any chance of healing her disease. And yes, it's so much fun. I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to give you spoilers, but there's so much in this book and so much of it is so good. And I had such a joy reading Oathbound. It was so good. And I'm definitely reading the next one. And then finally, the other book that I read in the last couple of weeks, in between everything else, was The Wishing Seed. And this is a little middle grade read that is pretty good. I'd say it's like an average middle grade read. I've definitely read better, but I've definitely read worse. And it is about this young girl who has moved town and is going to a new school. She really doesn't want to. She doesn't want to go through the drama of making new friends and like kids being mean and all of that kind of thing. So she makes a wish on this weird seed that she's found, hoping that she won't have to go to school the next day. She's like, I've read all of the fairy tales and they all say that like if I wish upon something like this, I will get a beanstalk that I'll be able to run away on or open a portal or whatever. And so she tries, and she wakes up the next day, and alas, she still has to go to school, except where the seed was is now a full-grown tree, and it's growing some weird fruit on it. So she picks the fruit and goes to school, and she tries the fruit, and it's terrible. And like the next day, the fruit's terrible again, and she is finding herself lying to all these people in her life, and getting caught up in this web of lies, and then it all kind of unravels and everything goes wrong, and she learns that it is better not to lie, which she already knew, but like she was kind of hoping she'd get away with it this once, and then it didn't happen that way. And her punishment then is to tend to this tree, and the fruits start getting better and all of this stuff kind of happens to do with her and this tree. And it is very cool. It talks about, teaching kids about lying and how bad that can be. It teaches kids about friendship and like accepting consequences and all of that. And it was a decent read. Would recommend it for a younger audience, but it's definitely not one of those middle grades that just any old age can read and absolutely love it. It's definitely more for a younger audience, and that's okay too. But yes, that was everything I've read recently. No, it's a bit of a long video, but yes, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. I'm hoping to be able to film a tag video that I was tagged in, so that you will still have a video for Saturday while I am away camping. But I'll see what happens, because the next few days are crazy before going away to camping as well. So we'll see. And I have exciting news as well for you that have stayed to the end. These glasses will be the last time you see these ones, I think, unless I pre-film that video for Saturday, because I have had to get new glasses, and I didn't want to get these new frames because these ones get damaged too easily. Like the fake gold comes off too easily. So I've decided to go for a different design, which breaks my heart because I love the shape of these glasses, but that's not the point. The point is, and I will bring this up in another video at the beginning when I put my new glasses on, but I'll tell you guys now as well. Reading is bad for you because it causes your eyes to deteriorate ridiculously. Because in the last year, since I got these glasses, my eyes have doubled in worseness. Like, gotten twice as bad. And the optometrist was a little appalled, and I explained. They were like, what's happened? And I was like, oh, I read a lot. And they're like, that's why. So this is your warning. Reading might lead to glasses and might lead to even worse eyesight. But anyway, have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.